introductions should be thought through and thought about from that perspective. I remember Millard Bennett, who I first started listening to in the 70s, a big public speaking guru. And what he said is that you want to write out your write out and memorize your introduction and write out and memorize your close, because when you start speaking, not only you're activating the audience, you're activating yourself, and all this comes up. So you may, if you're a leader, you're probably familiar with this. You start talking at the beginning of a meeting, and next thing you know, you start throwing in tangents because what you're speaking, you're on hyper alert now, and associations are kicking in, and it's causing you to say and do other things. So that is where we're slowing this down, because we don't want the triggered behavior. The big aha for me here is that those triggered associations are coming from inside, not outside, so you can't slow it down because you're not really dealing with the tiger. And then the last one is forgiveness. And as I said, I kind of spilled the candy in the lobby on this one. The point about the forgiveness is that we have to forgive ourselves, so that's not an open wound. We have to forgive others, so that's not an open wound, because we don't want those things coming up when it has nothing to do with it. Some of these wounds are 30 and 40 years old, and people, they're still driving people's behavior. You know, I have control issues, or people sabotage relationships because they're worried about being left or being hurt. These are, forgiveness will get past that, because once you can forgive, and it's easier to forgive if you can separate forgiveness and forget about forgive and forget. It's about forgiveness and then set boundaries, because we want to set boundaries. And on one end of the spectrum with boundaries, it's like, I'm never going over there again. That's your own boundary. I'm never going to go there again. Another part of the boundary may be, I'm never going to drink in public again. Another part of the boundary might be, I'm always going to drive my own car, or I'm always going to have my phone so I can call an Uber. I'm never going to leave my phone home. Whatever those are self boundaries. Not even getting into the other boundaries, right? When you say this, it causes me to feel that, I'm going to ask you to stop doing that. That's nonviolent communication. And then by forgiving and then giving yourself the power to create boundaries, you limit the amount of triggering that's going to happen because of relationships, because this is the one where after you have all this agency down here, you can still get knocked off center by what's happening in relationships. And we need other people. We need involvement of other people for our success and for our outcome. Everything I talked about today fits into emotional intelligence, these first two bullets, self-awareness and self-management. These are the four pillars of emotional intelligence, not to be confused with the four pillars of self-mastery. But you have to have self-mastery to do self-awareness to get it accurate. You have to have self-mastery so that you're able to get back to an even keel very quickly, and you're not getting triggered off into something that's not useful. Then your social awareness is going to be more accurate, and your relationship management will be more accurate. So here is the four pillars: knowledge, habit mastery, state mastery, forgiveness. And that becomes the foundation for your life design, your vision, your goals, your aspirations. And then here is a summary of the four pillars on one page. You take a screenshot of that. And this model is not just something that I use as a roadmap. It's also a dashboard, so I can see where people are. As a leader, you can look at your team and see where they're breaking down, right? If a person is tired and they're low energy, you know they're going to be more prone to fight or flight than if they have positive energy. You can see if people are fine and then a certain person comes in the room and things turn around. Back to this slide, one last thing to think about on that note is this pre-listening.